I do things wrong, and it all comes back to me in time. This time I thought I had it made, believing too much, my only mistake. I knew what was said came from the heart, and I realized how it's grown up hard, and it's really changed. And tell me why, and if you're still insane, then it makes a lie.
There's I think there's a lot more more just open-mindedness and looking for more originality and stuff like that. And I think it's probably, there's not really that big of a percentage more of those kind of attitudes in punk rock than there is anywhere else.
Because they don't understand that we're not violent, and it just sort of freaks them out. I don't mind, college students, but it really bothers me when I walk down my street, my neighborhood, and my neighbors go in their houses when I walk down the street because I have my hair spiked, or just that kind of upsets me, because I don't want people to be scared of me.
Like, I know friends that I have that aren't into punk and stuff, and they're just as aware as I am of, say, world hunger and nuclear war and all that kind of stuff, but they just choose to ignore it, and I guess it makes them feel better. They feel safer about it. And I think punk tries to open your eyes to it and really let you know what's going on and say, hey, you can do something about it.
The first one was like the old rock and roll, the first punk rock wave. It was like in 1978 or something. Like if you look in the first flip sides, you'll see in their list of fanzines, there'll be like 3 from North Carolina, and they won't have any from like Ohio or anything like that. Like one of the first punk rock scenes was in North Carolina. And they had bands like the Cigarettes and Butch Wax and the Hurts and stuff like that. And they were basically just rock and roll, kind of like 77 punk, but basically just rock and roll.
First thing about hardcore is, well, I grew up in the neighborhood with like Reed and Ethan, Reed Mullin, Ethan Smith, and I think Ethan's brother was the first. I don't know where he must have picked it up. There was a local band in town, the Cigarettes, but there was no name. They were just strange music, and there was no name like hardcore or anything, and that was like a long time ago. And Ethan brought a single, I think it was a Minor Threat single, or it could have been a Beaver single, and we just got interested in it, and we started buying records, and they're like people that knew about it. I don't know who it was. Like half those guys that I knew when I was first starting, I don't even know where they went now.
Well, there was this album called Nevermind the Bollocks by the Sex Pistols. It was amusing. It was bright pink and bright green, and it really stood out, and so I picked it up, and I kind of liked it. I thought it was funny, but it was a real rockin' record, So that's how I got into punk rock. From there, just other punk rock records that caught my eye, I would check out, and if I thought they were interesting, I'd buy them. And then I picked up the first Dead Kennedys album, which I thought was okay, but it wasn't great. That was my first hardcore album, I guess. And then a little bit later, I got Decline of the Western Civilization, and then I fell in love with those groups, I guess. Black Flag and the Circle Jerks. From then on, I liked hardcore a lot.
My sister, who was living and still does in Washington, I would go up there to visit, and she would just turn me on to new stuff, and I'd go up, and first she would turn me on to stuff like Devo, and like the Ramones and stuff, and then stuff like Minor Threat, and it went on from there. And then I would meet people down here that had similar tastes and interests. Lyrics are all political and stuff. Well, for the most part. They say a lot more. I mean, it's like mainstream. I mean, say Frankie says, two tribes go to war. They deny it's about anything that would help out on all their interviews. It's like, yeah, it could be about anything. Ooh. Tiger against the lion or something. Big deal. I mean, I think there's some mainstream groups that say a little, but punk says it straight out, what the deal is.
Well, mainly it was different from all the shit that you heard every day on the radio, and it was fast, and it was like full of energy, and it was power.
When rock and roll came out in the 50s, it was like completely different from anything else. And it was like something the kids could get into. I mean, everybody knows that. And like that was what was so great about it. It was a rebellion, Now, fucking 40-year-old people listen to the radio, I mean, what? It's not rebellion, How can you get into that? Punk and hardcore is it's just old rock and roll again, It's like something to believe in, it's something you can get into, and they don't play it on the radio, and 40-year-old people don't listen to it, It's something that I've got from my generation, something I can be a part of, while I'm a young person.
I guess just kids over in America heard what was going on in England or in the big cities, that the music was loud and fast. They picked up on it and kind of amplified everything, turned everything up twice as loud and twice as fast, tried to be twice as offensive. And I guess that was the start of hardcore.
Lyrics. And the mentality behind it is a lot different. Your average rock and roll song usually talks about, sex and drugs and partying, stuff like that. And I'd say most punk songs are about things that need to be talked about, like, thinking for yourself and, just caring for other people. And the music's a lot, it's a lot faster. There's a lot more energy in it.
It's just like the way the clothing look and stuff, and a lot of times they want to make themselves distinct from everybody else because everybody else pretty much nowadays looks like anyways. They just like, it shows them as themselves, like I'm Sam Lonnie, you know, I'm not Joe Blow.
The reason I do it is like, well, I don't think I'm dressed bizarre, but I do sometimes, is like, because it's fun, and also it's, if you take things to an extreme, things like seem to be more effective. Like, I mean, you can like, I could walk in a three-piece suit and go to a bunch of lawyers and say, you should take people what they are, not what they look like. And they say, okay, yeah, I agree with you, you know. But if you walked in there with like, kind of like dressed real weird, it'd be hard for them to believe. But
what I consider strange and what people might consider strange are two different things. I think a triple mohawk's not strange to me. I'm used to it. People consider this strange, but I don't think it is. And what people would consider, what people consider strange now will be accepted in a couple years. When I first got into punk, I had my hair cut short on top, and it was long in the back, it was all spiky. But that's all the rage these days. Everybody and their sister and brother have that haircut.